This question comes from Glenn Greenberg. He says, it's on the profitability of Geico and BNSF. He said, why do these companies operate at meaningfully lower profit margins than their main competitors, Progressive and Union Pacific? Can we expect current managements to at least achieve parity?
Was it Geico and?
BNSF.
Oh, actually, if you look at the first quarter figures, you'll see that the Berkshire Hathaway Union Pacific comparison has got quite better. Katie Farmer's doing an incredible job at BNSF, and been an interesting question whether 5 years from now or 10 years from now BNSF or Union Pacific has the higher earnings. We've had higher earnings in the past. Union Pacific passes the first quarter. You can look at and they think they've got a slightly better franchise. We think we've got a slightly better franchise. We know we're larger than the Union Pacific. I mean, we will do more business than they do, and we should make a little more money than they do, but we haven't in the last few years. But it's quite a railroad. I feel very good about that. I should go back to the previous question. People talk about the aging management at Berkshire, and I always assume they're talking about Charlie when they say that. But I would like to point out that in 3 more years, Charlie will be aging at 1% a year, and no one is aging less than Charlie. If you could take some of these new companies with 25-year-olds, they're aging at 4% a year. So we will have the slowest aging managed percentage-wise by far that any corporate, any American company has.
Did you want to talk about Geico versus Progressive too? Because I got a lot of questions on that.
Progressive has had the best operation in recent years in terms of matching rate to risk, and I mean that's what insurance is all about, among other things. But I mean, you have to have the right rate. If you think that 90-year-olds and 20-year-olds have an equal chance of dying, I mean, you're going to be out of business very quickly in the life insurance business. And you will get all the 90-year-old risks, and the other guy will get the 20-year-old risks. And the same thing applies in auto insurance. I mean, there is a huge difference between 16-year-old males and how they drive and 40-year-old married, employed people. So the companies that do the best job of actually having the appropriate rate for every one of their policyholders is going to do very well. And Progressive has done a very good job on that. And we're doing a much better job on that already. But Todd Combs has gone there, and it's a very interesting business. Both Progressive and Geico were started in the 30s. I believe I'm right about Progressive on that, and we were started in 36. We have had the better product for a long, long time, I mean, in terms of cost. And here we are, 85 years later in our case, and we have about 13% or so of the market, whatever it may be, and Progressive has just a slight bit less. So the two of us have 25% of the market, roughly, in this huge market after 80-some years of having a better product. So it's a very slow-changing competitive situation, but Progressive has done a very, very good job recently. We've done a very, very good job over the years, and we're doing a good job now, but we have made some very significant improvements. And if you looked at don't want to look at the quarters too much, but our profitability in the first quarter was good. But we gave back more money under our give-back arrangement when the virus broke out. We gave $2.8 billion on our give-back program that was larger than any company as well. It was the largest, I think, in the country. And Geico and Progressive are both going to do very well in the future. And actually, the Union Pacific and BNSF are going to do well in the future. It's just, in both cases, we want to do a little bit better than the other guy.
Can I just add a little bit? Yeah. There's no question Progressive is a machine. They're very good at what they do, whether it's underwriting, which Warren talked about in terms of matching rate to risk, whether it's handling claims. Having said that, I think Geico is catching up with Progressive. More than a year ago, about a year ago, Progressive had margins that were almost twice as much as Geico's and growth rates that were almost twice as much as Geico's. If you look at the results as of now, Progressive is still crushing it in terms of growth relative to Geico. But Geico has certainly caught up with Progressive in terms of margins, and hopefully that gap will be non-existent in the future. The second point I want to make on the issue of matching rate to risk, Geico had clearly missed the bus and were late in terms of appreciating the value of telematics. They have woken up to the fact that telematics plays a big role in matching rate to risk. They have a number of initiatives, and hopefully they will see the light of day before not too long, and that will allow them to catch up with their competitors in terms of the issue of matching rate to risk.
I will predict that 5 years from now, State Farm is still the largest auto insurer, but I will predict that 5 years from now, it's very likely that the top two will be Geico and Progressive, and in which order we'll see. But both companies are going to do very well, in my opinion. Geico's done well, extremely well, but Progressive was better at setting the right rate, and we're catching up, I think, fairly fast.
Yeah, Progressive has certainly done better, but when it comes to branding, Geico is, I think, miles ahead of Progressive, and in terms of managing expenses as well, I think Geico does a much better job than anyone else in the industry.